best a man can get.
Back here, first things first, we are joined by former Super Bowl champ Chris Kenny. What's up, Chris?
What's going on, gentlemen?
Welcome back, man.
Was that footwork display for me, or are you trying to convince yourself you still got it?
Oh, no, I still got footwork. My hands are still nice, and my footwork, especially the top of the route, I'm doing this coaching video, man, for wide receivers, training wide receivers next month. So I've been getting myself in shape and running some intervals.
Speaking of videos, for very low cost, just $100, you can get Chris Carter to say anything to you on the Cameo app.
Almost anything.
Go to Cameo. Get him to tell you whatever you want. Absolutely.
Anything. Absolutely.
Chris Carter out there. There you go. Good to have you back from vacation, man. Nice little picture.
Well, you got some sun, dog.
Oh, yeah.
Chocolate latte.
You already know.
Cowboys All-Pro defensive end Robert Quinn appealed his 2-game suspension for violating the NFL's PED policy. Well, the appeal was denied. Add that to coming off of surgery to repair a broken left hand, and you'd think Dallas's newest weapon would be hard-pressed to find a silver lining. But according to Quinn, this is just part of the journey.
This is just life. It's like, this is nothing. You know, I've been through a lot worse than, you know, a messed up hand and, you know, a couple games. So this is just life. You deal with them. You know, you deal with adversity, and either, you know, it makes you weaker or stronger. So that's just on the person, how he deals with it.
All right, Chris Kenny, how concerning are the issues on that defensive line for the Cowboys?
Well, I'm concerned from the standpoint that you need a good defensive line to play really good defense. The Cowboys, as a team, they're led by their defense. This has been a defense that's been top 5 in either points or yards for the past 3 years. So you're talking about the entirety of the Dak Prescott era. So if you don't have a good defensive line, it's going to be hard for this team to be able to play complementary football.
Because it's not just Robert Quinn.
It's not just Robert Quinn. Tyrone Crawford is dealing with the situation. He got into a barroom incident in Florida in March, and so he's in a diversion program right now. So we don't know what's going to happen. DeMarcus Lawrence is dealing with the shoulder injury that he had to get cleaned up this offseason. Also, Randy Gregory, we don't know when we could expect him back because he's been suspended indefinitely. CC, I know you made this point several times on the show, but this is, I don't know how many consecutive seasons the Dallas Cowboys have started with a defensive lineman under suspension. You can throw
linebacker or defender.
Linebacker or defender. David Irvin was in there at some point too. So I mean, there's been a lot of defensive linemen being suspended at the start of the season, and I don't know how sustainable this is going to be for the Dallas Cowboys to be able to play top-notch defense when you don't have those guys up front to get after it. Rod Marinelli's scheme, he doesn't like to do a ton of blitzing. He likes to let the front 4 rush and the back 7 guys cover. I don't know how you're going to get after the quarterback if you don't have those guys available. It's not a whole lot of proven depth behind the starting front 4 for that Dallas Cowboys defensive line. So it is a little bit of an issue.
This offseason, we've talked about the Cowboys more than any other team. And part of that's because of the Cowboys and America's team. I get that part of it. The other part of it is because they are dealing with more adversity, issues, conflict than damn near any other team in football. Not a lot of teams whose best player is currently holding out for a new deal. Clowney's not there, I get that. You've got Melvin Gordon, but he's not the best player on that team. Trent Williams, who might be the best player in Washington, he's old. But then there's Zeke with Dallas. They also have to deal with their quarterback's contract and their wide receivers contract. And all of that is almost a secondary issue to the devastation they're facing on their defensive line right now. Those 4 names you mentioned might be their 4 best defensive linemen. DeMarcus Lawrence definitely is. He waited to have the shoulder surgery, understandably. I get why he did it, because he was going to wait till he got his contract, but now he's on the PUP list. Tyrone Crawford, a pending free agent next year, by the way, he's on the PUP list. You mentioned Robert Quinn's suspension, and Randy Gregory, who you don't know if he's ever coming back. We don't know what that is. He's dealing with suspension. Why is that so bad? In addition to the lack of pass rush, the Cowboys' strength in their defense is probably not their D-line. It's probably their core of linebackers. Sean Lee, the veteran, Jalen Smith, a potential top 10 pick who dealt with a devastating injury, and Leighton Vander Esch, a first-round pick. Those guys can't run free if you've got replacement-level D tackles and D linemen in front of them trying to occupy blockers who can't. And while Byron Jones had a great year last year, the biggest weakness of that Cowboys defense the last few years has been the secondary. So now all of a sudden, the D-line makes the linebacking core worse. The secondary secondary is the part you even have the biggest question marks on. And, oh, yeah, by the way, all the controversy this offseason has to do with guys on the offensive end. The Cowboys, Chris, fully healthy, everyone in camp, fully locked in, to me, would be real competitors with the Eagles to win the division. The Cowboys, as presently constituted, you struggle to find how they would get above 500.
There's a number of things going around. You watch NFL training camps. I watch all the shows because I try to find out, because the league is forever changing, even though it's the same. It goes through trends. Right now, what we're going to see, New England, what they did last year, running the football, being physical around training camps, you're going to see more two tight end offenses. You're going to see more fullback offenses and teams trying to balance their set. I believe that the most missed thing this offseason has been, especially in training camp, has been the lack of attention on Dallas and their lack of what they're going to present from a defensive front. Rod Marinelli does an unbelievable job. I thought you did a good job as far as pointing out how good this defense is, because we don't talk about them enough. We talk about the offensive players. We talked about the contracts. We talked about Zeke. We talked about Jerry. We talked about Steven. But, man, there ain't no Super Bowl aspiration if this defensive line, if they don't get this line room squared away. And Jerry has taken a chance over the last 5-6 years as far as taking chances, questionable signings. Ronaldo McClain, signing him, he gets suspended. Randy Gregory, you can't rehab the whole world, man.
And Gregory, they had one of the guys.
And I like Randy Gregory, and I've been working with him. But you can't save them all. And Jerry always thinks that he can give a guy an opportunity to get his life turned around. And by making that chance, he has jeopardized the season because they have not been dependable. And now he signs a guy who he didn't think. He thought a grown-up was coming there in Robert Quinn and was going to play opposite of DeMarcus Lawrence. But at right defensive end, Chris Canty will tell you, left hand broken. That's his post hand. So how good is he going to be for the first 2 months of the season? When you can't post this on an offensive lineman, your rushing ability is affected. He's probably going to have a nub on it, and he's a speed guy. He's not a power guy. He's a speed guy. So for me, that injury sets him back for at least the first 2 months of the season, and they have no type of depth up and down that line, can't they?
No, they don't have any depth, and it's dangerous when you start talking about a team that has championship aspirations, CC, because you're going to have to line up and stop people. When you think about that Thursday night game they played after Thanksgiving against New Orleans, it wasn't the offense that won that game.
No.
It was the defense.
Yes.
Playing lights out of their minds. I mean, when you think about the landscape of the NFC, you're going to have to deal with Green Bay and Aaron Rodgers. You're going to have to deal with New Orleans. You're going to have to deal with Philadelphia, the Seahawks, the Rams. All of those teams are good offenses. You're going to have to slow them down.
Okay, so if you have no depth, and if some of these guys are out from either injury or suspensions, what are your options if you're the Cowboys and you're trying to shore up that D-line?
Well, we got to play a track meet. We got to score a lot of points. Dak's got to throw the ball, because people don't realize the defensive line, it affects your quarterback. Because now I can't be patient. I can't ground it out. The reason why Dallas can be a Super Bowl contender, because their team matches up. Their best player, offense, defense, Ezekiel Elliott. He eats up the clock. In 8 games last year where they were on the field less than 30 minutes, that defensive line got beastly. They allowed them linebackers to run up and down the line of scrimmage and be able to make plays. That secondary was able to be protected, but it's in unison. Zeke running behind that powerful offensive line, protecting my young quarterback. That defensive line, they rush the passer. They keep people off my linebackers that are special group, protects my secondary that is probably the least effective of all the units they have on the Cowboys.
All right, we got to take a break. Candy, stick around. Coming up, will Andrew Luck's health derail the Colts season? That's next up.
Yeah, that's that stab right there.
Yeah,
that's
don't
that
fire
stab.
back, though. You're on team.